The Book of Wind. Although breaking wind is a natural bodily function, talking about it is often considered to be in bad taste, not to mention bad smell. Nevertheless, breaking wind, whether referred to as passing gas, cutting the cheese, letting one rip, or whatever, does contain an element of humor, in addition to elements of ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, and mercaptan. With that element of humor in mind, the Book of Wind, a true work of work of art, was written by Jim Riva at the height of his intestinal energy. The Book of Wind is also known as Considerations for a Blank. Here is the sentence with a for the blank. A very disagreeable odor lingered in the immediate area for a relatively long time after left. The person who leaves can be either the person who commits the anal atrocity or the person who is on the receiving end of it, and all of the victims have the names of flowers. Just a hop, skip, and a fart away. New neighbor on the block, Yahoo Worst Wind, who let one rip at the home of his welcoming next-door neighbors, the Cosmoses, right after saying, "Don't mind if I do," in response to their invitation to please make himself at home. Gassy Guest of Honor. Tobias Gaspasser, special guest at the home of an English cheese-making family, of which the woman of the house, Gladiola, brought out a block of sharp cheddar and said, "And now Mr. Gaspasser will do us the honor and cut the cheese." Pardon my fart. Norbert Fartwangler, whose awful anal expulsion was in violation of a specified request by the meticulous hostess, Iris Sniffet, who had sent invitations with a P.S. stating, "Kindly leave your flatulence at home." When confronted by an annoyed Miss Sniffet, Fartwangler sincerely apologized with the explanation that he had not known the meaning of the word flatulence, and had erroneously thought that the request was for ladies with very small breasts to wear padded brassieres. Room to fart. Demure 19-year-old Japanese Hanako Sakura, on a homestay in Portland, Oregon with the Windblowers, who was shown a particular room by pert Windblower, her host mother, and told, "And this room with the broadleaf plants to capture impurities and provide fresh oxygen is our farting room. Pardon me while I make use of it right now." Hellacious hosts. The Roses, who were so fed up with the windbreaking of their hosts, the Windbergs, that they got up from the dinner table without finishing their meal of chili rellenos and sweet potatoes, and said with sarcasm, "So long and thanks for all the farts." Candles in the Wind. 73-year-old Grand Farter Flaminoff, who delighted his grandchildren and astonished everyone at his birthday party with the anally extraordinary way in which he blew out the candles on his cake, which unfortunately caused his son-in-law's party hat and hairpiece to catch fire. Fart ignition. Golfer Bogey Newfart, whose gas emission, while lining up a putt under ominous clouds during the U.S. Open, was struck and ignited by lightning. The Meteorological Agency, which had long been publishing a free booklet containing the do's and don'ts pertaining to lightning, decided, because of all of the publicity surrounding Newfart's career-ending badly burned buttocks, to revise the booklet with the inclusion of one more don't. The Fire-Farting Freak. Hugo Stinkovich, a popular entertainer known as the Fire-Farting Freak for his exhibition of flame-throwing, whose private showing at Lloyd's of London impressed the underwriters, but failed to persuade them to give him a better deal than they had offered for the premiums of a £1 million insurance policy on his large intestine. So Hugo ended up insuring only his asshole. Farting at the bit. Henry, the Sultan of Stink Gasevich, who was the front part of a horse. His disgusted wife Celosia was the bent-over back part, at a masquerade party in Vancouver, British Columbia. Putting the fart before the horse. 53-year-old Jimbo, the Great Gatsby Rotman, who let one repugnantly rip on a carousel at the Blackpool Pleasure Beach amusement park. while standing up in the stirrups of his horse in the bent-over position. Rotman's disgusting stench lasted for a 225-degree turn of the carousel, causing a loss of merriment for the first 6 of the 9 riders behind him. Back out of the saddle again, jockey Garrick Big Bang Toodleboom, whose explosive expulsion while mounting his horse just prior to approaching the post of the Kentucky Derby incited the horse, Valiant Geranium, and resulted in Toodleboom getting dragged all of the way to the quarter pole with his left foot caught in the stirrup. The goose that laid a rotten egg. Avid hunter Donald Duckfart, whose rectal release in thick brush in upstate Michigan caused a trigger-happy member of the hunting party to turn and shoot at where he thought there was a goose. Extensive damage to the ligaments and cartilage of the back of Duckfart's left thigh caused him to walk permanently with a waddling gait. A putrefying politician, Liberal Congressman Clarence Buzzsaw Limstanksler, whose prevailing wind while standing to make a persuasive point in the House of Representatives went slightly to the left because his right leg was a little shorter than the other. Right-leaning Congressman Wesley Hibiscus, seated to the left of Limstanksler, was persuaded to move left of center. Close encounter of the repugnant kind. Roman Empire historian Juniper Bottomley, who disgustedly stopped at the delineated halfway crevice while applying sunscreen on the buttocks of her husband Blaine Bluster Bottomley on their first day at a summer vacation nudist camp at Redondo Beach. Blaine, a jeweler, later came back from a bocce ball game a very sore loser, with one buttock ruby red and the other one pearly white, and thereupon became the butt of jokes, which led to a marital spat and ultimately the decline and fall of the Bottomley marriage. Flatulent tour guide. Rome tour guide Carlotta Fartarino, who faintly introduced herself to the tourists that had come for the guided tour of the catacombs, and then softly said, "I'm sorry to say that I have a slight case of laryngitis, so you'll have to stand close to me if you want to hear what I say. And I have a chronic case of gastritis, which is really acting up today, and I'm sorry about that too. Please follow me now as we begin the tour." In Caesar's fart steps, Thaddeus Mr. Smelly Gassinger, who had been standing in awe of the inscription of a quote attributed to Julius Caesar, Veni, Vidi, Vici, at the city hall of the German medieval town of Rothenburg, and was inspired to write an inscription of his own beneath it. I came, I saw, I farted. Farts in the annals of history. General Douglas MacArthur, who landed on the shores of the Philippines island of Leyte and said, "I have returned," whereupon he added, "and I have farted." Marie Antoinette, whose delayed gastrointestinal reaction occurred while she was being carried away in 2 parts. Poopadoopy, a 17th century BC Babylonian perfume seller, who harmed a married woman during a home delivery by subjecting her to putrescence. The following day, the woman's husband went to the home of the perfume seller and let one repulsively rip in front of his wife, in order to make things even in accordance with Hammurabi's code. Wild West Gasslingers. Cameron the Flare Fartnellen, whose rottenness, while standing back to back with his sharpshooting adversary, Rob Wisteria, caused Wisteria, who had chosen the terms, to become too watery-eyed to go on with a duel with pistols from 10 paces. So it was Fartnellen's turn to choose the terms, and he chose matchbooks from 1 pace. Texan Josh Bangfart, the last man to die fighting against Santa Anna's Mexican army at the Battle of the Alamo, whose explosive discharge with gunpowder up his ass, after he had run out of bullets for his gun, killed 1 Mexican soldier at close range before Bangfart was fatally shot while reloading. American pioneer Davy Peony, who was captured by the Windapoi, a Native American tribe led by Chief Wildwind, and was forced to walk casually, without holding his nose, through an incredibly long gauntlet in which the windiest of the Windapoi stood with their backsides to him. Because of the great composure he showed, Davy's life was spared, but only on the condition that he take the name Calm Eagle and marry Chief Wildwind's flatulent daughter, Little Skunk. Arm in arm and fart in fart. Australian tourists Jeff and Zandra Stinksprinkler, who were singing, "We were farting in the park one day, in the very merry month of May," while strolling past a group of people admiring the lilacs in Paris's Luxembourg Gardens. Lancelot to Fartalot. Emery King Toot Rappafart, whose repulsive rippage while 69ing with his wife, Daffodil, caused Daffodil to suddenly stop fantasizing that she was a beautiful princess making medieval love to a chivalrous knight-errant. The worst little whorehouse in Texas. John Mayflower, customer of prostitute Beatrix Van Rieck, whose foulness during sexual intercourse made Mayflower refuse to pay her on the grounds that she had falsely advertised her services as fart-free sex. More gas blasts from the past. Cleopatra, whose gastric ghastliness while taking a bath during her distressful, feverish days of debilitating despair, following the triumph of Octavian and the impending doom of her dynasty, caused the milk directly around a massive popping bubble to curdle. Orville Wright, whose reekage while lying face down in the flyer caused his brother Wilbur, who was steadying the right wingtip while running alongside, to suddenly hold his nose with one hand and consequently leave the wingtip a little too unsteady for that famous first flight by the Wright brothers to go farther than just 120 feet. Harold Leviathan Hunefart, flatulent poop deck cleaner on Sir Francis Drake's ship, the Golden Hind, who was finally forced by the nauseated Sir Francis to walk the plank, backwards. Upon jumping, Hunefart did a 180-degree turn and let one rip. Farting down memory lane. A confused amnesia victim, with nothing more to help him learn his name than a watch with the inscribed initials BR, whose gas leak, while aimlessly walking in Piccadilly Circus, brought a comment from an impudent stranger, "Wow, you are rank!" that helped him remember his last name. He proceeded to learn his first name when he said to the stranger, "But what is my first name?" And the stranger replied, "Why are you asking me, bub?" Bub Rank later learned that he had gone to London to attend a toilet manufacturers' convention. Fartier than thou. Leroy Fartaby, who had become sensitive to comments about the foulness of his wind, and went off the deep end when a stranger standing next to him near the irises at Long's Gardens in Boulder, Colorado, exclaimed, "Whoa, Jesus Christ, fella! My God, what crawled up your ass and died?" Look-alike, smell-alike. Johnny B. Rotten Rotford, who unintentionally broke wind upon saying to a complete stranger at Raffles Bar in Singapore, "Has anybody ever told you that you look like Mo Howard of the Three Stooges?" "No," replied the stranger. "Has anybody ever told you that you smell like a can of rotting worms?" Gas in class. Science teacher Rolf Windlinger, whose rectal eructation, while telling his students that the diffusiveness of air molecules is such that virtually every breath you take contains molecules exhaled by every one of the 60 billion or so people who have ever lived, caused a girl in the back row, Rosemarie Zokel, to retch from an inference she made pertaining to elementary farticles.